Hi everyone, thanks for watching. This video is part 2 in a series about the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. In this part, we'll go over the specific identity of the 7 heads according to the Bible. When the series is finished, I intend on putting them all together into one main video to hopefully make it easier to understand. Please let me know if you see any typos or other mistakes in this video or future videos in this series, and I'll correct them for the final version. I mentioned typos because I rushed part 1 a bit and didn't check it as well as I should have before uploading it. It ended up having at least 4 major typos, which I'll certainly need to correct in the final video. Part 1 could have been edited better as well, so I'm going to try and be a little more methodical in part 2 and subsequent videos. So this video might get a little boring at times, but if it does, just go grab yourself a cup of coffee and come back when you're ready. Before I begin, let's do a quick 1-minute summary of part 1, just to make sure we're all on the same page. If any of this doesn't make sense, or if you skipped part 1, please take a few minutes now to go back and watch that, and I'll see you back here in a bit. Welcome back. In part 1, I covered 2 different subjects. Number 1 was the symbolism being used, and number 2 were the traits of the beast. Understanding these 2 basic things will help us get a firmer grasp on the prophecy as a whole. Here's the symbolism. The beast symbolizes Satan himself being thrown down to the earth. The 7 heads symbolize 7 satanic kingdoms and 7 kings. Here are the 3 traits of the beast. 1. The beast persecutes Israel. 2. The beast blasphemes God. 3. The beast is at war with the remnant of Israel's seed and those who have the testimony of Jesus Christ. The beast represents Satan and has those 3 traits listed above. The 7 kingdoms and kings share the same 3 traits since they are growing out of the beast. Those 3 traits are important to remember as we seek to identify the 7 kingdoms. So let's move on now to part 2, in which we'll get into identifying what kingdoms are being referred to with the 7 heads. As we talked about in part 1, the 7 heads of the beast represent 7 kingdoms and 7 kings. Since the kingdoms and kings are connected to each other, a reference to one of the kings is referring to that kingdom which he's associated with. In Revelation 17, verses 10 and 11, we read this, "And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition." The essential key to understanding the identities of these 7 kingdoms are 3 words in the middle of verse 10. Those 3 words are, "and one is," which refers to the 6th kingdom. The reason that those 3 words are so important is because the present tense is being used. That matters because it means that there is only one possible interpretation that is always true, no matter when the verse is being read. For the 6th kingdom to be described as existing in the present tense, it must be describing the kingdom in power at the time John received his vision. The prophecy must be from the perspective of John. If the 6th kingdom was to be in the future, the verse would not have referred to it in the present tense, but instead described it as not yet come, or similar wording as used for the 7th and 8th kingdoms. Thus, those 3 words rule out other interpretations that try and fit the 6th kingdom into a time frame other than being contemporaneous with John, because those 3 words must be accurate no matter what year we are reading this prophecy. For example, there is a popular interpretation that the 7 kings represent 7 American presidents. However, the present tense of the words "and one is" disproves this idea, as the words would only be accurate for those few short years that the 6th president is in power. Reading verse 10 before or after the 6th president's term would make the present tense description inaccurate and the prophecy erroneous. And the same goes for other interpretations for the sixth kingdom that try and place it as existing sometime other than when John received his vision. The only possible interpretation of the sixth kingdom that is that it's a direct reference to the kingdom that existed at the time John received his vision. And the good news is that once we identify this sixth kingdom, the identity of 5 more kingdoms will quickly come into focus. The kingdom that existed at the time that John received his vision is quite easy to identify. All we have to do is simply check the historical record to find out which empire was ruling at the time of John's vision. Most Bible scholars consider Revelation as being written late in the 1st century, around 96 AD, and world history shows that the kingdom that was ruling at that time was the Roman Empire. Now that we know the identity of the 6th kingdom, the Roman Empire, we can actually work our way backwards to find the identities of the 5 kingdoms preceding it, which were described as having fallen in this prophecy. Just as Revelation 17 helped us to understand that Rome is the 6th kingdom, the 2nd verse of Revelation 13 is essential in our zeroing in on the identity of 3 more. That verse reads, "And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet were like those of a bear, and his mouth was like the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority." This verse is very important because the exact imagery of a leopard, a bear, and a lion were used in an older prophecy in Daniel 7, and that beast was also described as rising up from the sea. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard. In the next verse, Daniel then describes a 4th dreadful and terrible beast. Behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. We can see that the 4 beasts that Daniel described in his vision mirror the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns described by John in Revelation 13. And in Daniel's case, we can know the identity of these 4 beasts because Daniel had another similar vision of 4 kingdoms when he interpreted the dream of King Nebuchadnezzar. As we read about in Daniel 2, King Nebuchadnezzar dreamt of a giant statue with a head of gold, chest and arms made of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and feet made up of both iron and clay. Daniel's interpretation of the dream, given to him by God, was that the statue represented successive kingdoms, each one slightly inferior to the one before. According to Daniel, the head of gold represented Babylon, King Nebuchadnezzar's own kingdom. Looking at history, we see that Babylon fell to the Medes and the Persians. Following, we saw the rise of the Grecian Macedonia Empire. Finally, Daniel's description of the 4th empire can only refer to Rome, the 6th head of the beast in Revelation. So by matching up Daniel's interpretation of King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, alongside Daniel's dream of the 4 beasts, and Revelation 17's description of one kingdom existing at the time of John's vision, we can now pinpoint the identity of 4 of the kingdoms. Those 4 kingdoms equate to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th heads on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. And each of those 4 kingdoms is symbolized by a specific king, forming the kingdom-king combination that we read about in Revelation. Here is the breakdown for those 4 kingdoms. Babylon is the head of gold in King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. It is the lion, the first beast in Daniel's dream of 4 beasts. It is the 3rd head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns in Revelation. Babylon and King Nebuchadnezzar are the kingdom-king combination. Persia is the chest and arms of silver in King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. It is the bear, the 2nd beast in Daniel's dream of 4 beasts. It is the 4th head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns in Revelation. Persia and King Cyrus are the kingdom-king combination. Greece Macedonia is the belly and thighs of brass in King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. It is the leopard, the 3rd beast in Daniel's dream of 4 beasts. It is the 5th head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns in Revelation. Greece Macedonia and Alexander the Great are the kingdom-king combination. Rome is the legs of iron in King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. It is called dreadful and terrible, and is the fourth beast in Daniel's dream of four beasts. It is the sixth head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns in Revelation. Rome and Julius Caesar are the kingdom-king combination. King Nebuchadnezzar's dream started with his own kingdom, Babylon, being the head of gold, which corresponds to the third head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. The first 2 heads will obviously be 2 kingdoms that preceded Babylon, but what could they be? If we remember, the Bible gave us the characteristics or traits that these 7 kingdoms will possess: blaspheming God, persecuting Israel, and making war with the remnant of Israel's seed and those who have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So we simply need to use those traits or characteristics as a guideline as we zero in on 2 kingdoms that preceded Babylon. And as a matter of fact, the Bible does describe 2 such kingdoms. Those 2 kingdoms are Egypt and Assyria, and they are the first 2 heads on the beast with 7 heads. And since we're on the subject, let's take a moment here to quickly look at how each of the 6 kingdoms match the traits of the beast. Egypt, the first head of the beast, the Egyptian pharaohs forced Israel into hard labor as slaves for nearly 4 centuries. Assyria, the second head of the beast, invaded and plundered the northern kingdom of Israel, which were comprised of 10 of the 12 tribes. Babylon, the third head of the beast, destroyed the first temple, killed many thousands of Jews, and took thousands more into captivity. Persia, the fourth head of the beast. According to the book of Esther, Haman the Agagite attempted to exterminate the Jewish people. Greece Macedonia, the fifth head of the beast, a type of Antichrist, Antiochus Epiphanes, defiled the temple and sought to destroy the Jewish religion. Rome, the sixth head of the beast, attempted to murder Jesus at birth, crucify Jesus, sacked Jerusalem, and destroyed the temple in 70 AD, killing about 250,000 Jews, waged war on Jews in 135 AD, killing over 500,000 people. Here are the identities of the first 6 heads on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Since the first 2 heads preceded Babylon, they are not referenced in Daniel's dream of 4 beasts and his interpretation of King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. The first head, Egypt. Egypt is the first head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Egypt and Pharaoh Ramses are the kingdom-king combination. The second head, Assyria. Assyria is the second head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Assyria and King Sennacherib are the kingdom-king combination. The third head, Babylon. Babylon is the head of gold in King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. It is the lion, the first beast in Daniel's dream of 4 beasts. It is the third head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns in Revelation. Babylon and King Nebuchadnezzar are the kingdom-king combination. The fourth head, Persia. Persia is the chest and arms of silver in King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. It is the bear, the second beast in Daniel's dream of 4 beasts. It is the fourth head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns in Revelation. Medo-Persian and King Cyrus are the kingdom-king combination. The fifth head, Greece Macedonia. Greece Macedonia is the belly and thighs of brass in King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. It is the leopard, the third beast in Daniel's dream of 4 beasts. It is the fifth head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns in Revelation. Greece Macedonia and Alexander the Great are the kingdom-king combination. The sixth head, Rome. Rome is the legs of iron in King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. It is called dreadful and terrible, the fourth beast in Daniel's dream of 4 beasts. It is the sixth head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns in Revelation. Rome and Julius Caesar are the kingdom-king combination. At this point, we should note that Daniel's 4th beast, the one called dreadful and terrible, was the final beast in his dream. We identified it as Rome, the 6th head. But of course, there is one additional head or kingdom on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. That means that Daniel's final 4th beast not only applies to the Roman Empire, the 6th head of the beast, but that the 7th head or kingdom must also be connected in some way. There are 5 things we must look for in order to identify the 7th head of the beast. 1. It will be a kingdom that arises after Rome. 2. Like the other 6 kingdoms, it will also have the traits of the beast: blaspheming God, persecuting Israel, and making war with the remnant of Israel's seed and those who have the testimony of Jesus Christ. 3. It will have a connection to the Roman Empire, the final dreadful and terrible beast of Daniel's dream. 4. It will continue but a short space, meaning that it will only have a very short duration. 5. There will be a reason that it exists only for a short time. Those 5 attributes will point us directly at one kingdom, the 7th kingdom, represented by the 7th head on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. And the identity of that 7th kingdom is a topic I'll get into with the next video in this series. Thank you for watching, and if you care to leave a comment, please do. As always, kindly be respectful in any comment you leave, especially towards those with whom you disagree. I'll talk to you guys soon.